Alright, welcome back to Phil's Works YouTube channel. This week I am going to be tearing into this generator shovel. Now, this thing has late model oil pump, so I'm going to guess that it's a late 68, 69 motor, which it is. So you can tell the difference between an early generator shovel and a late generator shovel by a few little telltales on the motor. You can also tell it by the dash and a few other little bits and pieces if it hasn't been changed. This one has, but with the motor, an early generator shovel, so generator shovel was made from 66 to 69, was sort of that motor between the panhead and the cone shovel. So the way that worked, it basically kept the panhead bottom end, that's why it's still got the said slab side, and they upgraded the head. So the shovel heads were the new type, better, more economical sort of head, more powerful, everything. So they sort of just did like a 4-year trial of that, put the heads on the panhead bottom end, and that's why we call it a generator shovel. Now, a pan shovel is something completely different. Pan shovel is an early panhead bottom end, or any panhead bottom end with shovel heads on it. So generator shovel is factory. Pan shovel is actual panhead bottom end with shovel heads. So any panhead between 65 and 48 with shovel top ends is a pan shovel. So anyway, like I said, only a 4-year motor this. They are my favorite motor. I have one of them, which is my favorite bike, which you probably see me ride everywhere. Mine is a 68 and this is a 69. So like I was saying, the 2 years that generator shovel started with, they have all panhead stuff on them still. So a 66 and a 67 still has your early style panhead pump on it, just like the steel cast body and all that sort of stuff. And it has a few other little bits and pieces. Still has a panhead dash, still has panhead bars, controls, everything is basically still panhead. In the last 2 years, they sort of changed the shovel stuff. So you've got this different aluminium style oil pump, the dash changes, this changes, that changes, it all goes to shovel stuff, and then in 70 is the very first cone shovel. So you have the different timing cover with the cone. So anyway, what am I doing with this thing? So basically this was a buddy of mine's bike, Craig's bike, and he's now sold it to a buddy of a buddy, my mate Danny Fraser. This is his mate Kicker's bike. So basically what's going on with this thing, it's not exactly a perfect bagger anyway, so it's not really that sacrilegious. We're going to chop this up and make it into a chopper. So basically the most chopper thing you can do is cut the swing arm off and weld a rigid on it, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So basically in order to do that, I have to completely tear this thing apart, take everything apart, and just have a bare frame sitting on the bench. So that's exactly where I'm going to get started with this thing. I don't think I need to go through and show you too much. It's going to be a pretty boring sort of a experience, but I'm going to go through and just time-lapse everything. Time-lapse me taking this thing apart, and then once it's a bare frame, we will get it on the jig bench, and I'll talk you through doing a rigid rear end on one of these things. Basically, he's going to try and use as much of the parts of this bike to build a chopper to start with, and then he's just going to change it along the way. So that's probably the best way to build a chopper, to be honest. Fuck with the dick you got, and then you can change some shit after that if you really want it. So anyway, let's get this thing up on the lift to start tearing it apart. Like I was saying, these are my absolute favorite motors. Like I said, they were only made for 4 years, so they are pretty rare, and a lot of people didn't really care about it. So obviously the most sought after one is your 66, your very first year. There is a few things that I've read somewhere that your 66 actually makes the most power. So they were saying as sort of a promotional thing, they ported the heads and made them a little bit faster and stuff, just so when people jumped on them for a test ride, they blew the absolute doors off a panhead and everyone wanted one. So apparently your 66s are the one to get, and obviously the rarest because than the first year of the generator shovel, and it was only made 4 years. And like I said, the early 2 years have like the pan dash, they still got generator tanks, but they're different oil pump, a few other bits and pieces. They are still the best ones to get. So basically, I'm just going to dig into this thing, tear it apart. I think I'm just going to like take all the accessory shit off, so the seat, the tanks, all that sort of stuff, come around, take all the primary apart, pull the engine out, pull the gearbox out, and then once all the heavy shit's out, I'll go through, take the fucking guards, and I'll probably just take the front end as a whole lot off. I want to do as little as possible here because I'm not going to completely build this bike. I'm just going to do the frame. I'm just going to take it apart and do the frame and everything for Kicker, and then him and Danny are going to put the chopper together. So I'm just going to take this thing off in the biggest pieces as possible so that I can just handball it to them when they come and pick it up. So yeah, I'll just try and take that front end apart, completely assembled like that, so I don't have to touch a fucking thing. And then I'll probably put the front end back on it when it's done and put the rear wheel on it just so you can push the thing around, put the engine gearbox back in, just so you can push it around, get a bit of an idea what you've got. So this thing will get like a 10 over Springer on it, so it'll be a pretty cool little chopper. Danny's got a pretty big generator shovel chopper with a 10 over Springer and shit on it as well, so probably going to be pretty similar. Obviously going to run the midstar, juice drum and all that sort of shit, all the brakes and everything off this. You might as well use it on the chopper. So if you're going to build a chopper at home, the best way to do it is buy a fucking complete bike like this. Pick the pieces off you don't want, replace them, but everything you're going to use is fucking there. Like, I'm going to do a rigid rear section for this. I'm going to use pretty well all of that rear wheel, the brake, the spacers, the axle, all that shit. Going to need it all. And then like all the brakes and everything already there. You know, all the primaries there, all the gear sides there. Everything's there already. You don't have to go looking for annoying little trinkets, which is pretty hard to find in Australia. We're always buying them from the States. So this is the best way to get into a chopper. Don't think you're going to get real cheap buying a basket case. Basket case will cost you double. So just buy a complete running bike like this. You can always fang it around for a while and then start slowly chopping it up. So like I said, let's dig into pulling this thing apart. Alright guys, as you know, I absolutely hate putting music over my videos because they just get copyrighted after like 3 or 4 weeks, and then obviously I get no kickback from it. So if anyone's watching this and they do sort of, you know, music on the side, or maybe you have some sort of music that is not copyrighted and you would let me use it on my time-lapse just like this, that would be fucking much appreciated. I will put my email along the bottom of the screen here, and if you guys just want to send me a sample or something like that that you would think would fit my time lapse like this, that would be fucking much appreciated, and I'm happy to put a shout out on the video where I am playing your song. But anyway, getting back into ripping this bike apart. Basically, when you come to any big dismantle like this, it's easy just to cut all the wires and stuff like this. The owner of this Kicker sort of asked me if I would keep the wiring for this, but when you keep the wiring from a bike like this and put it on another bike, you're basically building a brand new bike and then transferring all the wiring issues into your brand new bike. So I always feel if you are building a bike from scratch, you build a wiring harness from scratch for that bike. Then you're starting fresh, you know, you're not transferring any broken wires, you're not transferring, you know, any blown fuses, something that doesn't work properly, shorts, whatever it may be. And, you know, just moving the wires in a different position than where they've been for the last fucking God knows how long can always create cracks and do weird bits and pieces. Wiring's one of those things that you don't want to be trying to fucking work out on the side of the road. Wiring is just something you want to fucking set and forget, make it as simple as possible, so if anything ever did go wrong with your bike, it's fucking easy to fix on the side of the road. There's nothing worse than having all your mates standing around giving you shit while you're trying to work out what is going on with your shithouse bike. So it's always better being the one with no problems and trying to help out the people with problems than vice versa. So basically, I've got most of this fucking bike pulled apart now. It probably didn't take me that long. I think it took me 4 or 5 hours to pull this thing apart. But a lot of the things are just weird. There was a lot of weird bolts in places and shit going on and just not easy stuff. So that's another nice thing about pulling a bike like this apart and building a chopper. You can see something when you pull it apart like this and go, oh yeah, I'm going to fix that up. And when you put the bike back together, you'll be able to rectify said issue. So basically, this front end is not going to go back on this bike. I was going to make it a roller so it was easy for Kicker to pick up, but it's going to another buddy of mine's place to get some work done. I don't feel like having to put this annoying ass front end back on. So I'm just going to give it to him with the motor and gearbox in the frame, ready to go with the hardtail all done, and then it can go to my other buddy and get some more fabrication work done. Stuff that I don't really want to be doing. Right, so I got this frame completely torn down now, sitting on the bench, ready to go. I just took the swing arm off this thing because it's just going to get in the way. It's going to be a little bit annoying. So basically that's the bike completely stripped down. So all there is to do now is chop this fucking frame up and turn it into a hardtail. So as you can see, I have some axle plates here set up in my little tower. Now these are just axle plates from Lowbrow Customs. I'm going to do some axle plates from a company in Australia up next probably. The company in Australia makes some now and I want to go through and try them. They've asked me to do a video on it, so I will be doing that very shortly for my project. Which project is that for? Oh, that's for the swamp shovel. So I've got the frame for the swamp shovel all cut up, ready to go. So I'm going to go through it and do a video on those new axle plates from Laneway Supply in Australia. Anyway, so I've got this frame to cut up now. Now, I can bend up a rigid for this, no worries, done it 100 times, just takes me for fucking ever. My buddy Joel has a jig, he can bend up all of tubes and everything I need for this. He even has a little jig to press the flange at the top, so it flanges the tube so it fits in at the top there perfectly. So not much point in me trying to make that or scallop it. I'll just get him to do it. Saves me heaps of time, and I know Joel hates doing it because he's got that much other shit to do. Anyway, so why don't you guys come in a little bit closer, we'll work out where we're going to cut this frame and we will lob this rear section off it. Now it looks like this frame has been hardtailed before and it's been put back to a swing arm. I've got some welds in all the places where I'm about to cut, so it tells me that this thing has been hardtailed in the past and I'm about to do it again. So let's fucking do it. So these are those tubes I was just talking about. See, my buddy Joel presses them super nicely so they'll just go straight back on there, weld around that bitch, and it's done. Usually when I'll do it, I'll just cut this thing and then just weld around the tube straight into the side, but these are done way better. So Joel does a really fucking good job of that and saves me doing it, like I said. So basically, like I said, we want to work out where we're going to cut this thing. And as I said, it looks like this thing has had a hardtail before. All the spots where I want to cut, like this one, look like they have a fucking weld in it. Now this frame has some fucking serious paint on it. It must be fucking, what's that fucking shit called? Powder coat. So this fucking paint must be baked on here. It is fucking super hard. But basically, anyway, I want to cut this thing. Really, these tubes have heaps of meat on them, so this doesn't really matter. I just want to cut them in somewhere that is going to make my life easy. So I like to use this cross piece as a fucking datum point, right? So I can just put my rule up against it, measure back, and then work out where to cut exactly the same on both sides, so everything sort of stays a bit symmetrical. Now on the other side, it has a fucking bit of a booger weld there for some reason, so I might get the measurement off the other side to try and miss it, because I want to cut on the good tube. I don't want to cut where someone's fucking booger welded it. So it says 180 is a good fucking weld, but I bet you, oh no, that's not too bad. 180 is just there. So I'm going to mark this at 180 mil. You fucking Americans can do a conversion because I'm always converting imperial to metric. So 180 mil straight through there. Like I said, big thick pen, doesn't matter. I'm just going to go through and hack the fuck out of this. So other side as well, fucking 180. It's fucking Friday afternoon right now, and one of my buddies is coming around for a couple of beers. So if you see this video suddenly just stop and then it's fucking the next day or fucking a week later I'm wearing a different shirt or something, you know I've fucking gotten on the beers. So keep an eye out for the change. But basically that's where I'm going to cut that. Our little support tube through the center. Now this guy is quite important. He ties the whole lot together, so we have to run that guy. What I'd like to try and do is cut it right down beside the post there, because then we can weld it straight back onto the post that's going to be there anyway. The gearbox is not moving. The gearbox has to be there. So if I cut that thing nicely enough, I'll be able to just weld it straight back onto the next gearbox support post, threaded post like that. So that's pretty well it. Cut there. And then the top, obviously we want to keep our little cross brace here. Once again, it's really ovaled here like it's been welded before. So I think I'm about to go through here and open up a can of worms trying to weld this again. But basically I'm going to cut on both sides of where that center support is. Just cut it straight through and then I'll be able to look in there and see, and then I'll probably like cut it across the top just to clean it up, and then I'll be able to come through and weld it up. It's going to be super nice. So I'll cut it there. Same on the other side. There's big fucking welds there. This is probably going to be a fucking pain in the ass, but through there. And then obviously I want to clean this top tube right up because I'm going to put another piece straight back on there. So I'm going to cut that the whole way around like that and then clean it up. So I don't want to see any more of that because we have this new piece that'll just go fucking straight on like that. So now that I've done that, as you can see, I've already got this thing in the bench, in the table as well. So I have all my geometry set up. So it's all locked down so that after I've cut all this, I can put the thing straight back in and start working out my rear section. So right, let's fucking just time lapse this. I'm just going to go through, chop this rear end off, and then we will get into some of the finer details like fitting all these tubes. So let's fucking do it. So when it comes to cutting these frames up, I always use my trusty angle grinder. I know you Americans have no idea what a guard is, but if you put a guard on your grinder with your 5-inch disc, it is so much nicer to use. It doesn't flick sparks straight in your fucking face. So if you have a grinder at home, Americans, I know you do, that doesn't have a guard, you guys should invest in one. It's so much better, and you don't fucking cut your finger every time you get your hand in the wrong spot or something. But grinders are the most versatile tool, and you can literally do fucking anything with them. I'll do a complete frame with just a grinder, grinding off the bits, notching a tube, fucking cleaning up everything with just a grinder. Righto, fast forward a bit. It is Monday. Well, it's afternoon now. It's fucking Monday. After the time lapse on Friday, I got stuck into the beers. It was that time of the week. So fast forward to the week after. Here I am. I have, obviously, as you saw, the whole arse end of this frame has been chopped off, and I have spent the morning basically getting all the tubes and everything ready to put this frame back together. Like I said, I had all these pre-bent tubes from my buddy Joel. I've done it 100 times before. It's much easier buying them from him. Anyway, these axle plates take a 1-inch tube, right? So I had to do something a little bit funky, and I just had to machine the ends of this tube down 30 thou. Now you're probably wondering how I did that. Joel left these tubes nice and green for me, so they left them nice and long, so I could hold it in the chuck, swing this out the back, and machine this down 30. So worked a fucking treat, actually. So now all they do is they screw in just like that. That one there. This side. This is all just loosely going in at the moment, so that guy screws in. And then I did the same with my bottom tubes here. So I've got some spacers here that I use. Basically, she will screw up there like that. This guy will go underneath just like that. That is fucking all well and good. That fits nice. And where is my fucking other bit? This is my other bit. Where is my tube? So this bit is pretty cool. This bit's got a joggle in it. So if you have a look in an original frame, this is where the chain goes. It goes past this little joggle here. So I've done it heaps of time before. If you don't have a jig to make this joggle, doesn't matter. I've done it with a straight tube, same as this side, and you can get away with it. Sometimes you got to heat it up, give it a bit of a flatten, but not the end of the world. Joel's made a little jig to press this joggle. You can't bend such a tight bend like this. So he's got a jig to press a joggle in. So that is another reason why I just get Joel to do it. He does a much better job than what I would do. So basically that all fucking goes together like that. I have my radiuses and everything machined onto my tube and everything like that. And then another little part that Joel makes is these pressed gearbox plates. So they just go around the steel just like that. And then one on the bottom, just like that. And then all I had to do was machine up some bosses. Now these are the bosses that your gearbox plate will bolt into. So they go through there just like that, just like that. It all welds together and pretty well turns out to be an original looking frame. So I'm pretty well all stoked with that. I just need to cut this a little bit more when I put it together. But anyway, the other thing I did, because down here we are joining two tubes together, we want to put a slug in the middle. So the slug in the middle gives us another point to weld to. So we weld the three pieces together, and then you're not working on that joint because the slug is tight inside the tube and you're not working it. It's about 50 mil long or 2 inches long. So that taps perfectly into this and we can put it all together. So that is basically it. I have my axle plates all set up here, although when I put these sockets into my tube, I have to take the axle plate apart and knock it together. It's just the way that it has to be done. So I think I'm just going to go through, I'm going to time lapse this. I'm just going to go through, get this frame all tacked up and ready to weld out basically. I just need to, when I put this together, I'm just going to tack it here, and then I might have to use a little bit of heat through here just to compress this top bit and make it sit a little bit nicer. Not the end of the world, just the shit you got to do sometimes. So like I said, that is that. I'm going to go through, let's time lapse this and let's get this thing fucking put together. So welding up these frames, right? So I'll just go through some welder settings real quickly. You're going to need like at least a 200 amp welder to weld out a frame like this. I am just using my TIG welder. Obviously, I solely just use TIG to do all frame stuff like this because with a TIG, you can create an arc and really burn into a surface before you add any filler material. So you can really burn in there and get a good penetration before you add material. Where if you were to do this with a MIG welder, which is not the end of the world, you can do it with a MIG welder, but the way a MIG welder creates an arc is shooting wire at the job. So you can't heat up a job in a certain spot and then add filler rod like you can with a TIG. You are always shooting material in there. So I find for a little job like this where you've only got a short little bit to weld, you don't really want any stop-starts in there, which are really bad on a MIG. So with a TIG, you can really burn in and not have a penetration loss on a stop-start. So that is why I always use a TIG. Obviously, they are much neater as well. You can get a really nice little neat weld that doesn't need any cleanup. Where with a MIG, you just fucking shooting heaps of wire and heat into it and then hoping for the best. And then you got to go through and clean up all the stop starts usually. So what I'm doing here, that's the rear gearbox mount. So like I said, that's just some fucking threaded rods that I put in there. And then I use the trans plate to align all that. And then I weld it completely out. And then I don't show it, but I put a rear guard mount on there as well. So that's always nice. So the TIG settings, I'm running bigger welds like this. I'm running like sort of 200 amps and then a really slow pulse. I do like 1 pulse per second so you can get a nice dime look to it. And sort of like a 50% balance sort of thing. So it goes to 100 amps up to 200 amps, back to 100 amps, 200 amps, 100 amps. It does that once a second. So that's sort of the settings that I use. And I use a straight argon. I know some Americans use helium. There is benefits to using helium, but in Australia, everything's just argon. So this is just straight argon. The beauty of that is I can weld steel with it, I can weld aluminium with it, titanium, anything with the same gas. So I don't have to have different gases laying around to weld different things. Straight argon just does fucking everything. So that is pretty well the frame welded out. I'm going to pull it out of the jig now, and that'll be that. All right, just a bit of an update on the frame here. I've pretty well gone through and welded about 80% of it. I've welded as much as I physically can without pulling the frame out. So that's exactly what I'm going to do now. I'm going to pull the frame out of the jig now. It's not going to move or anything because, like I said, I've welded majority of the welds and nothing's going to move now. It's going to stay exactly where it needs to be. So this morning off camera, all I did was I basically put this center tube in. Super easy to do that. I just cut the miters. I just put it in there and mark it, cut the miters with my humble little drop saw, and then just use the elinisher just to fix up the little corners, and it goes in super mad. I got a bit of wind affected there, but that's all right. It goes in real well and welds up perfectly. So like I said, I have most of this shit welded. Oh, the other thing I did, I put my little rear guard mount on here. It's another press plate that my buddy Joel does. Sweet little piece. That's that, all the bits together. It's basically, you know, good to weld out and, good to pull out and finish the welding. There's just tiny little bits that I couldn't get to, like there's like 10 mil section under there. Underneath here, I don't need to bother breaking my back and trying to weld upside down because I'll just pull the fucking thing out, turn it upside down and weld it and get a much nicer weld. So the other thing, I'm waiting for my fucking gas bottle to run out. It's annoying. It's gone further than what I thought it would. So I'm waiting for that thing to die any second and have to go get a new one. So I'm just going to time lapse this. I'm going to pull this out, turn it over, start welding underneath. And if you see it stop for some random reason, you know I've gone to get gas. As any welder knows, whenever you get to something important or the very last bit, or you just got to do a quick little job, or you just want to quickly do this, your gas always fucking runs out. So that's exactly where I was with this frame. I really thought my gas would stretch a bit and get this frame done. Turns out I had to go and get some just after this frame and then come back and did like fucking 10 minutes of welding and it was done. So it's always the way with gas. You're always running out at the worst time. So as I said earlier, once you've welded like 80% of the frame, you can pull it out of the jig. It's no longer going to move anymore, and you can get those hard to reach little welds there like I'm doing right now. So sometimes you can get a jig that you can spin, so it's like on an axis, and you can rotate it like a rotisserie and weld the bottom while it's still in the jig. They are super good, but they're sort of useless for anything else but a frame. So like my bench here that I use as a jig table, when I'm not doing a frame, I can fucking do any other job on that nice welding bench. So I find those box section jig sort of annoying because they only have one use. It's not like you can do another job on them or nothing. They just sort of sit around collecting dust until you have another job for them. So once again, a welding bench like this that just has a tower on it that I can do a frame on is fucking way better. So now I'm just going through with my trusty grinder, cleaning up some welds with a little linishing disc, and basically just finishing this off a bit. I'm not going to do it perfectly. There's obviously going to be more shit welded to this frame, more things to be done. So at the end, when this frame's ready for paint, they can go through and finalize all these little last bits and pieces. Right, there we have it. This is the frame, rear end, all welded out. I've all cleaned up, everything ready to go. So I've just stabbed the motor in the box back in here because the guy who owns this kicker, it is going to another buddy of mine to get some more fabrication done. I sort of took this job on a while ago and I'm trying to stay away from fabrication at the moment. I only want to do personal stuff just because motor stuff, I've got so much shit on, and to be honest, fucking burning yourself and shooting sparks and all that sort of bullshit is really not on my top things that I want to be doing at the moment. So I'd rather be building motors, put a fan on, nice and cool, don't have to worry about shooting sparks or burning my hands or anything like that. So probably one of the last fucking paying fabrication jobs I want to be doing for a while. So you will see me doing a rear section for the swamp shovel. That's different. It's a personal project. That's a fucking bike for my brother. I'm happy to do that. Not really that interested in doing paid fabrication stuff at the moment. But anyway, like I said, that is pretty well it. This thing's off to get some more fabrication done and turn it into the chopper that the owner here wants. So, as always, if you guys have liked what you've seen, maybe you've learned something, maybe you just want to say thanks, I have a little buy me a beer button here, or there's another button. You can go onto my web store and buy a shirt. So everything you contribute really helps me, even down to some beer money to fill my fridge full of beer. That is much appreciated. Anything helps. It takes fucking forever for me to fucking film all this stuff, edit all this stuff, and post all this stuff. So if you want to say thanks, that's how you do so, and I really appreciate it. But that is it for this week's episode, guys. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next week.